Today's lesson's on operations with imaginary numbers. So if we were asked to simplify, let's say the square root of -4, we can break this down as the square root of 4 times the square root of -1. The square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of -1 from the other video is the letter I. And that's our answer, 2I. What if we had 2I times 3I? Well, 2 times 3 is 6. I times I is I squared. And I squared is -1. So 6 times -1 is just -6. What if it is 2I to the second power times -5I? Well, remember that we have to distribute the 2 to both. So it's really 2 squared and then I squared times -5I. 2 to the second power is 4. I to the second power is -1 times -5I. This is -4 times -5I. Negative times the negative is +20, and we just leave it as I. What if we are adding imaginary numbers? Let's say we had 2 plus 3I plus 5 plus 8I. Well, we are just really combining like terms. So 2 plus 5 is 7. 3I plus 8I is just 11I. Remember that since we're just adding, the exponent does not change. Because this one has an I right here and the 7 does not, we cannot combine like terms. So that means our answer is just 7 plus 11I. The one that does not have the letter I, which is the 7, this is called the real number. The one that has the I, the imaginary number, is called the imaginary number. In math, we denote this with the letter Z. And Z is just a way to represent imaginary numbers. So the 7 is the real part. The 11 is the imaginary part. We will get to the graphing part later on, but this is how we write it. You could leave it as 7 plus 11I, or the letter Z equals 7 plus 11I. Let's try another example. So let's say we had 10 minus 2I plus 9 plus 7I. Again, just combining like terms. That's going to be 19. -2 plus 7 is +5I. And that's our answer. What if we are subtracting? When you're subtracting, you want to be careful. I personally like to distribute the negative out first. So that would be negative 11. Negative times the negative is positive 6i. The first terms, we did nothing to it, so we just bring it down. And now we combine like terms. 4 minus 11 is negative 7. Positive 3 and positive 6 is positive 9i. Let's try another. Let's do 8 plus 5i minus 3 minus 2i. Again, I like to distribute the negative out to the terms after it. That'd be minus 3, and negative times a negative is positive 2i. The first terms, we did nothing to it, so we leave it alone. Now combine like terms. 8 minus 3 is 5. 5i plus 2i is 7i. And that's our answer. What if we multiply imaginary numbers? Let's say I had 2 plus 3i times 5 minus 4i. Well, we are actually using the distributive property. So we're going to multiply both of these by 2. And then we multiply both of these by 3i. So let's do this. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times negative 4i is negative 8i. 3i times 5 is 15i. And 3i times negative 4i is negative 12i squared. So now we are going to combine like terms. So we have these two that we can combine. Negative 8i plus 15i is positive 7i. The 10, we did nothing to it, so we're just going to bring that down. Remember, I squared is negative 1. So we're going to multiply that by negative 12. And negative 12 times negative 1 is going to be positive 12. Now we combine like terms. That would be 22 plus 7i. And that will be our answer because we cannot combine like terms anymore. Let's try another one. Let's do 7 minus 11i times, let's say, 6 minus 8i. Again, distribute this out. So that'd be 42 minus 56i. Multiply these two out. Negative 66i plus 88i squared. Again, combine these two. That will be negative 122i. 42, I'm going to bring down. And remember, I squared is negative 1. So if I multiply these two out, that'd be negative 88. Bring down the 42. Bring down the negative 122i. We can combine these two, which is negative 46 minus 122i, and that will be our answer. Now let's divide imaginary numbers. Let's do 3 plus 2i divided by 4 plus 5i. So I'm going to rewrite this as a fraction. So it's going to be 3 plus 2i over 4 plus 5i. In math, we don't like to have the letter I in the denominator, so we have to multiply by something to get rid of the I on the bottom. To do that, we multiply by what's called the conjugate. The conjugate is just basically the same thing with a different sign. So if it is 4 plus 5i, I'm going to multiply by 4 minus 5i. If I do that to the bottom, I have to do that to the top. The reason why is because this becomes that giant 1 that we have learned previously in CPM. So on the bottom, if I multiply this out, if I distribute this out, that'll be 16 minus 20i plus 20i minus 25i squared. Combining like terms, these cancel out. So I get 16 minus 25, and I squared is -1. So that really turns into 16 plus 25, which is 41. So this on the bottom will become 41. Now on the top, I'm going to distribute 3 plus 2i times 4 minus 5i. Again, distribute. So this becomes -7i. I'm going to plug in the -1 here. So this becomes +10. Bring down to 12. And if I combine like terms, that's 22 minus 7i. So on top, 22 minus 7i. And that is going to be our answer. Seems very complicated, but the more you do these, the faster it will get. Again, multiply by the conjugate. So if we have fractions, we want to use conjugate pairs, which basically is a plus bi. Then its pair would be a minus bi. So again, the only difference is just the signs in the middle. Let's try one more. Let's have 10 plus I over 5 plus 2i. Hopefully when you do this more often, you will see a shortcut for the bottom. For the conjugate pair that we're going to multiply is going to be 5 minus 2i. If I do that to the bottom, I do that to the top. So for the bottom, I have 5 plus 2i times 5 minus 2i. And that'll be 25 minus 10i plus 10i minus 4i squared. Notice that these cancel out. So 25 minus 4, and remember, I squared is -1. 25 plus 4 is 29. So the bottom is 29. For the top, 10 plus I times 5 minus 2i, that's 50, minus 20i plus 5i minus 2i squared. So these two become negative 15i. Bring down the 50. I squared is negative 1. So this part becomes positive 2. Combine like terms, 52 minus 15i. So to recap, we have adding imaginary numbers where we just combine like terms. Same thing with subtracting, but you want to make sure you distribute the negative in the middle. We have multiplying, which is basically the distributive property. And we have division, where you need to multiply by the conjugate pair to get rid of the letter I on the denominator. And that is our lesson for today.